Hi everyone, my name's Helen McKenzie. I'm a senior geospatial consultant at Atkins. As you might be able to tell from my accent, I'm based in London, England, so I'm sadly not here with you today, but I'm really excited to be part of this event and talk a bit about the 30-day map challenge. So I'll just share my slides, which hopefully you can all see. So my talk is entitled The Quarantine Escapism, How the 30-day map challenge got me through the UK's second lockdown. So what I'm going to talk about today, first of all, I'm going to introduce Atkins, who I work for, and myself, talk a bit about the background of this talk, discuss how I found Mapspiration throughout the 30-day map challenge, the challenges I experienced and how I think I grew through the challenge, and then lessons learned. So first of all, about Atkins. If you've heard of Atkins, you are probably aware of us as a really big infrastructure and transportation company, which is true, but something else that we do, and I think we do really well, is we do a lot of geospatial work. So we have around 90 geospatial professionals based all around the world, predominantly in the UK and Bangalore. This consists of GIS consultants, geomatic specialists, and software developers. We do all sorts of different tasks around geospatial, from 3D visualizations to data capture and management, internet mapping and web portals, GIS systems design and implementation. But what I'm going to talk to you about today, and I think the reason we're all here, is to talk about spatial analysis and visualization, which is really the area that I am most interested in. So I'm Helen and I make maps. I've been working in GIS for about 7 years now, and at Atkins I specialise in cartography, database storytelling and data visualization. And you might be able to tell that I love maps so much because I've got one here all over my face. Today I'm going to talk to you about my 30-day map challenge experience, or what I did in lockdown. So we've all been in different types of lockdown for a while now. In Britain, we've been in some form of lockdown since the 16th of March 2020, which is such a long time. The particular bit of lockdown, because we've had so many different ones, as you can tell from this graphic, the bit I'm going to talk about today is the one we had last November. So this was supposed to be a month-long lockdown, and it was supposed to save Christmas. But it also meant that we all had to stay in our houses. We were only allowed out for food, for medical supplies, to help other people, and to go out and exercise once a day. So it's really boring and it was really lonely. And this is what London, which is where I live, looked like during lockdown. If you're not familiar, this is Trafalgar Square in the middle of London, which is, on a normal day, this would be absolutely jam-packed. You could barely walk through it. And this is what it looked like in lockdown. It was really spooky. But this is really what my lockdown experience looked like, which is actually where I'm sat right now, which is my tiny little rental beige flat, my kitchen desk where I work, all my kitchen stuff around me. And yeah, it was pretty lonely, pretty isolating. But luckily, along came the 30-day map challenge. So I'm really glad I participated in this. It gave me something to do in the evenings during last November, which was an absolute godsend. And I won't go into too much detail about what the 30-day map challenge is, because I think you've already had that information. So I'll move on. But here's a bit about what I wanted to get out of the 30-day map challenge. So first of all, I wanted to be able to complete every day within around 2 hours. So I wanted to be able to work on it during my lunch break and a bit after work, but to not eat into my personal life too much, which I'm not sure how much I managed to stick with, because sometimes this kind of thing can get addictive. I also wanted to map the things and places that I don't normally get to. So at the time I was working at a transport company based in London, which meant that I mostly worked in the UK, particularly worked in London, and worked in transport as well. So I really wanted to try and explore some different things to map. I wanted to experiment with new techniques, tools and styles. And a really important one, I wanted to learn to accept imperfection. So this graph here shows a diminishing returns mapping experience, which is how I feel like I normally work. So I normally, within the first, say, 50% of the time that I'm spending on a map, I make loads and loads of progress. And then the final 50% of the time, I'm just like making little tweaks and changing a color 10% or moving this label here or there. And it doesn't really have a great effect on how good the map is. It's just I find it hard to let go. So this was supposed to be a bit of a challenge to teach me to be a bit better at that. Finish the thing. I really wanted to try and do all 30 days. I really wanted to try to commit to that. But mostly I wanted to have fun. So like I said, I didn't really have many other fun things to do. I couldn't go out. I'd got through all of Netflix. And yeah, I needed something fun to do. So here are my 30 maps, all 30 of them. Some of them were harder than others. Some of them I like more than others. Some of them I really look back on and do not like. But I'm really proud that I finished them. For the rest of this talk, I'm going to talk a bit about the ones that I found maybe a bit more challenging than others, the ones that helped me grow a bit more, and some that I was inspired by other things to do, because it's really hard to keep thinking of things to map for 30 days, even though having 30 excellent themes does really help. So I decided to do the challenge about 1 hour before making my first map. I decided to commit on a bit of a whim. But for me, by far the biggest challenge was thinking of something new to map every day. So my next section is called Finding Mapspiration, which is 100% a word. So my 4 pieces of advice for people doing the 30-day map challenge who are worried about if they will run out of inspiration are these. First of all, map what you love. You know how they say you should write about what you know or what you love? I think it's the same with mapping. Map what you miss. So for me, actually, when I was compiling this presentation, I realized how many of my maps were about food and drink, because clearly they were the things I was missing the most during lockdown, which probably says a lot about me. Map for someone. So think of a friend, a loved one, a family member, and if you were going to make them a mappy gift, what would you make them? For example, this map here is of the Southwest Coast Path in England, which is an area that myself and my family have been going on holiday to since I can remember. It's a really beautiful part of the world. One of the things we love most about it is going on really long coastal walks, and there's a coast path that goes all along this coastline. It's about 600 miles long. And one of the best parts about that, and I think any walk, is the pub at the end. So this map I really made with my family in mind to show them you know, where we might consider going for our next holiday, or more importantly, not. And then my final piece of advice would be to go sideways on a theme. So think about how you can really maybe interpret a theme in a slightly different way, in a slightly sideways way. One of the maps that I most enjoyed making was actually for the depressing COVID theme. I made a map about global interest in banana bread based on Google Trends over the last year, because so many people have taken up baking, and baking banana bread in particular. And I really enjoyed that sort of twist on a theme. So I'm just going to go into detail on a couple of maps that I was particularly inspired to make. First of all, this is a map that would probably go down a bit better in Britain. And I actually did a whole 20-minute presentation at the British Cartographic Society about this a couple of weeks ago. This is a map of drive time to Nando's. Now, Nando's is, what is Nando's? Nando's is a chicken restaurant in Britain, but it has a kind of cult following. There's a lot of memes. It has a really strong place in popular culture. Ed Sheeran did a rap about it. So I wanted to dedicate this map to a very important chicken shop. So this is drive time to Nando's. The design of the map was really inspired by the menu at Nando's, which you can see on the left. So for example, we have the legend is the pepper, which represents how spicy your chicken is, or in this case, how close you are to a Nando's. I use paper cut polygons, so it looks kind of like paper layers are layered on top of each other. I sampled a paper texture for the background, but very importantly, I used a chicken drumstick to represent the North Arrow, which I think is one of the best cartographic decisions I've ever made. Another map I really loved making, and I think this was a sort of Friday night, I can't think of what to do for the 30-day map challenge today map, where I was sort of sitting at my kitchen table I think I was having a cherry Coke and listening to Taylor Swift, and then Red came on and I was like, well, I could do Red for the Red theme, so I did. So this shows Taylor Swift's Red tour and album sales. So I'm using the sort of Firefly cartography style to show the tour audience, and then you can also see the album sales by color here. I think one of the things I really learned with this map is the difficulty of turning information into data. So I could find all this information about tour audiences and album sales out there, but it was normally in like a really dodgy bullet point format. It wasn't data. So I actually spent a really long time cleaning this data before even getting it into the map. But this is one of the ones I really love the most. So next I'm going to talk a bit about the challenges and growth I experienced with regards to specific maps and specific themes that really challenged me. So the first theme that really challenged me was yellow, and this was one of the first themes in the challenge actually, so I was really up against it from the start. Yellow is the colour that I find really difficult to map with, and I tend to not map with it very much. I think it works really well as a highlight colour, but as a predominant colour in a map, I find it really difficult just because it can either be very bright or very pale or kind of olivey sludgy, which can get a bit ugly, and it's very difficult to find the perfect yellow, I thought. So I tried to think of things in the world that are yellow that I might be able to map. Bananas. I think I could only think of bananas for a really long time and was searching for banana data for about an hour online before I thought of The Simpsons, one of the most famous yellow things in the world. So I created this map about places visited by The Simpsons. I found the data on another wiki, so simpsons.fandom.com, and again had to sort of crowbar that from bullet points into a data source that I could use. But I absolutely loved making this map. I just loved the whimsy of it, how fun it was. My partner came up with the idea of putting Homer on a donut ring in the sea and just absolutely insisted that I put that on. So that's why that's in there. And yeah, I ended up really loving this map. Next challenge was 3D. I've always really struggled with 3D. Just as a cartographer, it's something that I'm a bit allergic to. I don't like how the taller features can mask out the shorter features behind it. I just think it can be quite misleading, so I really don't get on with it. But there was a 3D theme in the 30-day map challenge, so it had to be done. So the map on the left and the center are two different themes. The one on the left is 3D and the one in the middle is a new tool, I believe. So on the left, I created this in ArcScene, and then a couple of weeks later, the map in the middle was created in Blender, and Blender is something that I've wanted to try for a really long time. I always see people doing such amazing things with it online. And I'm really glad I did, because you can really see the benefits of using a piece of software like this, particularly how you can apply almost like smoky glass effect to the areas, so you can really see the shorter areas behind the taller areas, and the two main cities here don't mask them out. So this is a population density map of Vietnam. The two maps in the center and on the left are the exact same data set. So it's just interesting to see the differences in the same data set in different software packages. And since then, I've completely fallen in love with Blender and do so many different things in Blender. You can see on the right, I've got a couple of things I've done since then, and really think I've come on in leaps and bounds since my first 3D foray. And then next, a new tool. So the 30-day map challenge is a really great way to try out new things that you maybe wouldn't get the chance to in day-to-day life. So one of the things I tried was R. And quite a lot of people made maps like this during the 30-day map challenge. This is a joy plot inspired by the Joy Division Unknown Pleasures album cover, which you can see here. So the map on the left shows the topography of the Lake District, which is a really beautiful mountainous area in northern England that I created using getting the topography data from QGIS and then loading that into R and using a package called GG Ridges to create this joy plot. And since then, I've absolutely become addicted to creating joy plots. You can see a couple that I've made since then using more sort of gradient styles. And yeah, I'm absolutely addicted. I really recommend giving them a try. They're a lot of fun to make. So my lessons learned from a 30-day map challenge. First of all, it's called the 30-day map challenge, but I think for me, it was maybe more the 30-day data cleaning challenge. I don't know if I particularly chose very challenging tasks that maybe there wasn't data for and I had to go and find it from a wiki or something. But I spent a lot of time cleaning data in this challenge, and I'm hoping if I do this again, maybe I can streamline that a bit better. Saying, okay, that's done in such a short space of time is really tough, but actually doing it, I think, can be very good for you. Finding the joy in the details. So I really enjoyed, like I mentioned, creating that chicken drumstick north arrow. I also created a pie weather vane for a different map, and I really enjoyed just those little details that some people might not even notice, but are just really, really fun and really add to it. I found it to be really effective of the form of the map to reflect the subject, and I really recommend listening to the great women artists, and particularly the episode featuring Mona Chalabi, who's the data editor at the US Guardian. They do a really great piece about how data visualizations in general can really be more effective when the form reflects the subject. They can just be much more engaging, much more effective. Next, watermark, watermark, watermark. I definitely had some incidents where people posted maps that I've created on different social media platforms, sometimes not necessarily claiming they're their own, but definitely not crediting me, but in other cases, definitely claiming they're their own. So that's a lesson I've definitely learned. Getting out of your comfort zone in terms of software and domain can be so helpful for improving your skills and broadening your horizons. And finally, I really, really love what I do, and doing this really reminded me of that. Some more lessons learned. If you're participating this year, 30 maps really is a lot of maps, particularly in 30 days. It's okay to stop, skip, and slack, and more importantly, snack. You'll need coffee and you'll need a banging Spotify playlist to keep you going. I really recommend Dance to Lost 90s. It's really just so energetic and it's just great. But it's so rewarding to participate in this. It really is. It's a great way to meet people and get involved in the GI community. You'll learn and you'll grow so much. And if you're anything like me, you'll fall in love with maps all over again. Thank you so much for listening. I'm sorry I can't be there in person again, but this is an amazing event. And thank you so much for everyone for organizing it. If you can't get hold of me in Slack, please contact me on social media. I'd love to chat. Thank you so much.